Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Lots of stuff on Kickstarter. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff upcoming next week. As always, let's take a look. Cold open. I got nothing for you this time except I got a lot of games that are coming in that I got to get played so I can give you guys some thoughts on them, some videos on them specifically. Things like The Witcher, Deliverance, Battle for Baturnia, Let's Make a Bus Route Dice Game, just to name a few. So I have a lot of stuff on my radar, not to mention other stuff like Everdell, Tidal Blades. I have a lot of stuff upcoming that I want to get out on a video as individual reviews for you guys and just my thoughts on things. So we'll kind of see what sort of trickles out when. As always, if you're interested, throw me a sub. It's going to be a lot more of a little bit of everything coming your way, as always. But that's not why you tuned into this video. Let's get on to the main attraction. What is launching on Kickstarter next week? What do you need to know about it? And why? Of all of the games launching, this is probably one of my more anticipated ones because it takes a co-op, hard-ish escape management style system, and it seems to be also unique, and that is Mechanical Beast, and this is launching on the 31st. I am supposedly supposed to be potentially, maybe, getting a copy so I can give you guys a little bit more detail on it. But I'm not sure if I'm going to be getting that. Obviously not in time for the Kickstarter, but maybe, again, one of those I can get out during the Kickstarter, depending on what happens. I know they had a limited number of them, and it may be able to be forwarded to me, it may not. But either way, I'm going to be checking it out on the day it launches because I'm super interested in it. It is a 1 to 4 player cooperative game, and as you can imagine, the art indicates sort of what you're going to be doing. You are engineers exploring this giant robot, trying to deactivate it, and then once you deactivate it, that's only half the fun. Then you have to escape the collapsing robot so you don't get crushed in the meantime. Now, it's originally designed as a print and play, I believe, from 2019, but you can play it as solo, competitive, or cooperative. You are going to be manipulating these tiles, trying to puzzle solve in a way. You are going to be laying these tiles down, trying to find the off switch as you sort of proceed, laying them and creating this maze that you have to figure out your way through. That is the first half of the game. Second half of the game is, like I said, you're escaping, but you have the ability to manipulate the tiles in order to help you facilitate the exit and getting to it much sooner. Like I mentioned, this was actually the Solitaire 2019 winner of the print and play. So this game has legs to stand on. This is not some unknown quantity. And the ability to help or assist each other is very unique in this. And I like the combination of tile and cooperative. There's not a ton like that out there, at least that I'm as familiar with. So you can see why I'm so interested in it. And if it goes with this aesthetic, with the meeples and the tiles like this, then the price point is probably going to reflect that. Then it's even more likely that I'm going to take an even harder look at it. Now, the other caveat is you can see, obviously, there are more than 4 meeples here in the game. So you are actually going to have the potential to find other people in there as captives and your trusty android. And not only do you have to escape, it's not one of those where, okay, make as many people out as you can and that's victory points. No, everybody has to escape. Otherwise, you lose. So an added degree of difficulty there. Now, how does the competitive going to work? I have no idea. But, again, as you know, a co-op fan, this is ticking the boxes for me so far, before the campaign at least. The other thing that you'll see here on the Board Game Geek page, it also shows the other things that it got in that contest. Best Push Your Luck Survival, Best Puzzle Abstract, Second Best Rulebook Graphic Design, 3rd and 4th places on the innovative mechanics and the other issues which are less important in terms of the PNP build, the low ink, and the best playtester. But that means, again, it's not something that is completely just random thrown out there that no one's played before. It's got some pedigree. It's been compared to other things out there. So it looks like you're going to get a solid project. Again, I'm interested. I want to see what it looks like. I am going to be following this one very closely when it launches on the 31st. Next up, also launching on the 31st, is now it's under a different name on Board Game Geek. It's under the Cursed Empire card game, but the full title of it is Cursed Empire Heroes of Thargos. This is a 2-player, head-to-head style game set in an RPG type setting using a resource management type system to compete over 4 different mission tracks. Expansions, solo play, fulfilling these objectives and replacing them with your own. It's got some modularity within this head-to-head dueler. Again, though, like I mentioned yesterday in the roundup video, is this going to have enough appeal to set it apart from a lot of the other 1v1 dueling type systems? What is going to make people want to put more eyes on this and more funding of this compared to the other stuff that's out there? Because I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but there's a lot of them. And people are very selective for that reason. Now, we'll go back to the Board Game Geek page here. The interesting thing, though, that you need to know about this is you can deck construct. And again, that is going to be either people's, thing that gets them in, or it's going to be a big turnoff too. Because deck construction versus deck building is two, it's not two sides of even the same coin. It's two completely different mechanisms in realistic conversation as well as gameplay, because especially for me who does a lot of casual stuff, like I can't just take this game out and play it with somebody if I just want to get it to the table quickly, right? There's a lot of construction that needs to go into it in the first place. The one nice thing that they say, though, in the highlighted portion here is the scaling. Each of the cards that you put in your deck has a power level. The more power you have in your deck, so I mean, you can make your deck as strong as you want. It's going to require more victory points, though, so it's going to be harder to get there as opposed to somebody else who has less, needs less. You get a bunch of stuff, 16 character cards, 40 mission cards, 40 lasting cards, 40 action cards. So 2 legal decks can be created. You would need additional core sets, though, to create more specialized decks. So it's definitely not the LCG model. It is the TCG model. So again, how do you feel about that, right? TCG model. Okay, so that is Cursed Empire Heroes of Thargos, launching on the 31st. Check it out if you're interested. Also launching on the 31st, Vermin Vendetta. This is a 2 to 4 player game where you choose your type of insect and you are battling out in a dominant fashion, trying to see who can become the most dominant species in the backyard. You are trying to achieve the most objectives the quickest with a deck building strategy type mechanism. Now, the interesting thing is here you can see sort of it's actually got a board in terms of this deck building aspect as well, where you are going to be traversing across said backyard, trying to acquire more DNA in order to upgrade your insects. Also, it's where you're going to get all your food. It's where you're also going to try and destroy the opposition. There's not a ton of information on the Board Game Geek page, but there is a rule book that you can check out if this, sort of hexagonal based approach to a deck building mechanism is of appeal to you. So, I mean, if that interests you at all, theme-wise or mechanism-wise, I mean, you can already start to look at the rule book, which is linked right here in the file section. But otherwise, you're just going to have to wait until the 31st when it launches. Next up from Burnt Island Games is Fall of the Mountain King. Now, I'll be completely honest with you guys here. One, I got a chance to play a full round on Tabletop Simulator a couple weeks ago with the publisher. And I had never played in the Hall of the Mountain King. I really didn't have any appeal in the Hall of the Mountain King, but I had this opportunity, so I said, why not? And I hate to say this, but I would have probably pretty easily passed on this game if I had not have played the first round. Having had played the first round in this game, where you are taking it as a prequel to In the Hall of the Mountain King, you are trying to, in a losing effort, fend off the gnomes that are invading and taking over your homeland, and you are sacrificing yourself nobly to achieve victory points when you are eventually overwhelmed. And you are doing so in an area control style manner, but also an interesting tile laying aspect in order to allocate the types and the amounts of actions that you have in the first place. If you have not seen my overview video, it encompasses all of the main mechanics that you need to know about, and I'll link it above so you can click on it and go to it from this video. But it is very, very interesting, and there is going to be a deluxe version of this as well, as they stated to us. It's going to have miniatures. And again, the question and the biggest issue in this sense is going to be, what is the price point going to look like? I think the first one was relatively reasonably priced, but as with all Kickstarters lately, we've seen inflation, right? We've seen inflation with everything, not just miniature games. And with everything else going on, with The Witcher, with all of the other stuff coming later this month and next month and the previous month, there's only so much money to go around. So price point, I think, for this one is going to be very telling and very interesting, and is maybe going to be the swing vote for people like me who are going, you know what, this is really actually intriguing, but let me see when it actually launches. Because that is where I'm at with this one. Like, I'm hyped more than I was expecting to be, but I'm also a little bit trepidatious because I also don't want to put down triple digits for a game like this necessarily, because it is a little bit outside of my normal comfort zone, even though I did like the one round I played. Again, it was only one round. If you want to get more info, again, the only video on Board Game Geek right now is mine, actually, which is surprising. There's no files, there's no other pictures, but it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but I also think it's probably not going to be everybody's bread and butter, because this is, comparatively, from what I've heard and what I know about In the Hall of the Mountain King, this is very different. But I like the tile placement, tableau, action building / management style that you do at the beginning of every round. It is unique. It is something I have not seen before in any other game. It does it in a very fun way, and it makes the engagement relatively high. So overall, like I said, I was very surprised by this. I was not expecting to like this, but I think if you have any inklings about this, I think you really need to check this one out when it launches on June 1. Next up on June 1 is Daimyo Senso. This is a 2 to 8 player game where you are taking the role of a daimyo in the 16th century Japan, trying to become the next shogun. This is an action programming style war-ish game a little bit, where you are going to be using pre-selected commands over the 4 seasons over 4 years. You have 3 actions that you're going to be choosing from: move, deploy, or attack. But you also have a special 4th action that is unique to your daimyo. And so it's going to be influencing the amount and the type of your locations and structures on the board in the first place, because at heart, this is an area control style game. There is a 3-player demo up on Board Game Geek. So if this concept intrigues you, which it does me, you should go check this out. There's no files, there's not a whole lot of other images, a couple pictures of what it's going to look like a little bit, but there's not a whole lot of other information. So if you want to know more about this before it launches on June 1st, you need to check out this video. It's about 17 minutes long. Other than that, like I said, check it out if this appeals to you as a fan of these historical Japanese games and Japanese themed games in general. My eyes are going to be on this. We'll see if it's going to be appealing, but it's launching, like I said, on June 1st. Next up is Ruthless Tall Tales, an expansion for the base game Ruthless, also launching on June 1st. This is a 1 to 4 player expansion for the base game Ruthless that is adding a solo mode and just more of everything. If you're not familiar with Ruthless, it is a game from 2018 that is a pirate-themed deck builder. Play a card, buy cards, use treasure cards to recruit better pirates. Rinse and repeat. Also, different caveat, at the end of the round, take the cards that are in front of you that you've played, form a poker hand. Best poker hand gets more bonuses. Play 5 or 6 rounds, finish the game, most victory points wins. So what is the expansion adding at this point? Challenges, more choice, more variety, and a solo mode like I mentioned. Adding merfolk, adding a kraken! Not a hyperspace kraken, so I can't get as excited. This one's just in water. This one's just a regular kraken, you know, so hyperspace kraken! More chests, more powers, and notorious pirates that you can hire on your own. If that sounds interesting to you, check it out when it launches on June 1. So I wasn't kidding with this being a big week, especially for me, because now we have Mechanical Beast, we have Fall of the Mountain King, and now we have the other big third one that I might be backing all 3 of these, and that scares me for the sake of doing so, and that is Adventure Tactics, the expansion Adventures in Alchemy. Now, if you're not familiar with Adventure Tactics, if you're not familiar with it, was received in 2020 after its previous Kickstarter, and this is basically your dungeon crawl-esque closest thing probably to Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, again, if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy Tactics, it is a classic that has inspired many iterations and variations throughout the years. The essential crux of that is take these fighters and these blank slates of characters and you can mold them into whatever type of class or specialization that you want, because as you level up, say, okay, if you just stick with the fighter class, you can go 1, 2, 3 levels, 4 levels of fighter. But all of a sudden, if you do 2 levels of fighter and 1 level of mage, all of a sudden you've got maybe a special type of mage or a special type of fighter that is completely different. So it's a complete unique class with each different combination of the base classes that they're out there, and there's a ton of them. It is very kid-friendly. It is also just enough to intrigue your gamer group. And I've heard, okay, it's not the most difficult game out there, but there are ways of making it more difficult. And so it is grid-based combat, tactical, not really deck-building-esque, but, you know, get your power-ups, level up, have your moving and your attacking and your tactics. That's where the tactics come in. It is not just a slug fest. And the art is very friendly. Now, I heard a little bit of the biggest complaint of the first one because, again, it's standees, so the price point is better. One of the biggest complaints was there was some issue with the quality control. I think some people had copies that warped a little bit. But all in all, I mean, I think Dice Tower gave it its seal of excellence as well. And so for a game that has this appearance, you're not expecting, maybe if you're not, you know, knowing what to expect, the level of gameplay excellence that's there. But in all accounts, people have really liked it for what it is. And here you can see a little bit of those various aspects and nuances. Well, you can be the cleric, the warlock, the bishop, all of these things. Maybe that's a fighter or a paladin right there. But that is the variety, and they all have different abilities, and they all have these different sets of asymmetric powers that they can use. So what is Adventures in Alchemy going to add at this point? New classes, new scenarios, new events. New whole campaign. Now it also gives you an option to do a little mini intro campaign, and then you can jump into the whole Act 2 that this campaign is going through in a separate tower. New enemies, new elite classes, new tactics. I believe Board Game Go already has a video out for it. I'm super pumped about this. This is one of those games where I reached out to them seeing if they would be willing to send me, you know, a copy to look at. And unfortunately, didn't win on that one. But I am going to be watching this on day one. The biggest concern I had with the first one, and the reason I didn't back it on the first Kickstarter, was Blessing and Curse. They didn't do a whole lot of exclusives. The only exclusive was really this side quest adventure that they had a bunch of great writers do. And I just, at that point, with it being a little bit more of an unknown and not sure where it was going to fall, I decided to pass. But you can pick it up for a very respectable price at retail, get almost all of the content except for that, without a few. I think maybe the miniatures as well, I think were a little bit more exclusive because I don't think those come with the retail pledge. But you can get it at retail right now, and you can try it out before this launches, after, even during, when it's going on, and see if it's for you. And, you know, frankly speaking, I am going to have a hard time probably not backing this. I hope that they give me more incentive to back it because I want to support it and I want to show them the love because I think they're putting out a good product. Either way, my eyes are going to be on it, and this is one of the big three for me that I'm going to be looking at in the month of June as a whole. That I hate to say that June might be a more expensive month for me than May was. So this is one of the reasons why. So check it out when it launches on June 1. Next up, launching on June 1 is Floating Floors, right? And it is exactly what the name entails. You are a tactical ninja balancing act dueling against other players in a 2 to 4 player game. Now, this is a ninja-based path creating, trying to stay camouflaged while balancing physically dexterity-wise, right? I'm using the good words this week. And you are trying to make your way to grab all 4 of these seals while sabotaging your opponent's path because you are each one color, either the black or the white, and trying to have them either fall off or block them from being able to gather said seals. I hate to say it, but this looks like a great, intriguing concept. Like, again, I've already mentioned the other 3 that are already like super high on my radar. I don't need another game that is high on my radar, but this looks like a combination of like abstract and like tile laying manipulation. So again, those are 2 things that are super appealing to me. And so this Floating Floors just looks great to me. And I want to see what the price point is. I want to see a little bit of gameplay, but I really don't need to spend any more money, which I'm going to probably do. Now, when I was previewing this, guess what's in the Board Game Geek forums? A link to the preview page. So you can see right now, $16,000 goal, and you're going to be seeing what's a little bit out there already. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a breakdown. Okay, let's see what price we got going on. Okay, PDF, retailer pledge, backer, okay, retailer details, $49 New Zealand. So $49 New Zealand is about $35 US. So that's a good price. Okay, you've got me. Early backer, looks like there's going to be 50, but it's just getting your name listed. So it's not gameplay. It's not necessarily even price. So you're not missing out if you don't get it. What are you getting in the deluxe version? A digital copy of poster art and maybe deluxe set. Okay, whatever the difference is between the deluxe and the base. So again, that's $69. So it's a little more expensive. So what are you actually getting with the deluxe upgrades? Foil box, foil pieces, gold resin, jutsu tokens. Are those the same? They look about the same. So a few of the gold foil things. So I would easily pass on that, but I think the base looks relatively straightforward. What are you getting? You're crafting the floors. You're putting them down on top so that you need to know how it's going to be balanced and where you can set them in order so it's not collapsing. And then you're crossing with caution because your opponent is going to be the same thing. Capture the targets set by your rival and where they're at, so getting to the side there, and completing those 4 that I said that completes the word here. So all in all, gosh, man, this looks like a great thing. I'm not going to look at the rules right now for you guys, but I will definitely be covering it next week. And I'm super going to be checking out this when it launches, so notify me on launch. Saved. There you go. That is what you need to know, at least initially right now, about floating floors, but you should check it out when it launches as well. I mean, if you're like me at least. And if you're not, that's cool too. Next up, we have Squaring Circleville. And this is based on a real town in Ohio where you had a construction many, many years ago when the city was first built, and it was done in a concentric circular manner. And you as developers are saying, wow, that's horrible. Let's make it more grid-based, square, orthogonal. And so what you're doing is you are trying to slowly make those changes in the city. The real-life town of Circleville in Ohio, when it was created in 1810, is what the game is based on from Spielworks. You are going to be constructing as well as significantly deconstructing in order to build the new town. As the game progresses, you are going to become more experienced. This is going to allow you to do much more in the same amount of time. You can see here what the base board is going to set up like. You can see the scoring tracker on the outside. You can also, well, not really see here, but it talks about there is going to be a rondel type mechanism as well as an area majority or control mechanism in addition. Obviously, you can see some year-end or game-end objectives in this picture right here. And there was recently, a few days ago, a video uploaded of a gameplay that you can take a look at as well if this little bit of heavier style placement area control game is more appealing to you. It is going to be launching on June 3rd. So, this is definitely an intriguing concept. I'd like to see it in action. I have a feeling it's probably going to be too heavy for me, but if you're looking for something a little heavier that's definitely unique with a unique theme and looks like, just based on pictures, unique mechanisms, you should give it a chance and give it a go-see on June 3. Also launching on June 1st is The Binding of Isaac, The Four Souls Requiem. This is an expansion to the original base game. New monsters, new items, play as new characters. There's also a solo and a multiplayer mode, as well as what they're calling here a brand new room deck. This is a 2 to 4 player game along the lines of Munchkin with Take That and card playing management. Playing loot cards, playing item cards, killing monsters, getting more loot, trying to obtain and be the first one to get 4 souls in order to win the game. They say with the description, cooperation, betrayal, and bartering is definitely encouraged. With the significant backing the first one had on Kickstarter from the original RPG game in the first place on the video game side of things as an IP, it raised over $2.5 million with almost 40,000 backers. So, with the following I expect to be relatively similar for the second one, expect to see this blow a lot of the other games on this list out of the water in terms of actual funding as a more mass market appealing style of game. Now, is it for everyone? No, it's not. But it brings more eyes to the hobby. And if they can make the base game better with an expansion like this of giving more depth, more nuance, and more stuff, hey, let's see what it offers. It'd be interesting to see how well it does. What is the price point going to look like comparatively? How much exclusives are they going to throw in on this one? And we'll see what happens when it launches on June 1. Also launching on June 1, My Singing Monsters, the board game, right? This is a 2 to 5 player game that is a worker placement style game. Now, the interesting thing that they say with this is that as you play, it will grow along with your growing skills. So it's marketing, it seems like, as a beginner, an intro, a developmental worker placement where you can add new rules, new depth, and new changes over your plays. You are going to be playing monsters on a number of islands that will help determine the difficulty based on the number chosen at the beginning of the game. Each of these islands, when a monster is played there, will give a different resource or ability. In addition to that, you're going to be getting new breeds of monsters as well as resources that you add to your collection that you can use on further turns. There's not a whole lot of other information out there, but interestingly enough, Roll for Crit already has a preview video up on Board Game Geek. If this sort of not legacy style game, but sort of the worker placement style of Zombie Kids Evolution or Zombie Teens Evolution, without, at least as far as I think, the secret, little envelopes, that style of stuff. So if that appeals to you, especially as someone looking to get into this genre or trying to help others get into this genre or mechanism style of things, you might want to have your eyes on this one when it launches on June 1. Okay. That's it right now for the most part. So that's a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff, way too much stuff that I am going to be checking out on day one and potentially clicking back on. So I would really appreciate it, developers and designers and publishers out there, if you would stop, not really, putting out such interesting and intriguing and wallet busting stuff. So that's it. As always, I hope you liked all the videos that came out this past week. There's going to be a little bit more of everything hopefully coming the following week. There will also be my, games that I am most looking forward to in June. The games that you need to know about in June. And disclaimer, a couple of the ones on this video are probably going to be on that video as well. So just be aware because, like I said, Mechanical Beast, Adventure Tactics, Fall of the Mountain King, those are 3 heavy hitters all within the first couple days. So, although Mechanical Beast, that's actually May 31st, so technicalities. But also, what did I get in May? What did I back in May? That sort of thing, collection roundup, a couple more reviews of the stuff I mentioned at the beginning, and hopefully videos of Witcher, Deliverance, and whatever else comes out. So, there you go. As always, that's all I got. Thanks for clicking. Thanks for being willing to put up with me for another day, another click, another subscription. So I love it. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. Let me know what you're interested in, what you have backed this past week, as well as what you're interested in the next week as well, or even the next month. So love to hear from you guys. Love to see what you guys are interested in as well. Thanks for everything. See you around. Have a great weekend. Stay classy.